Hi, hello. I know it's a Wednesday and we usually do pet pairings on Wednesday, but today I'm going to forgo the pet pairing in favor of trying some new makeup products. First of all, I'm finally going to try makeup by Mario the Ivanovich's makeup brand, and I've also received already actually a few days ago the Keyaki 2 set from Sonia G, and I've actually already used some of the brushes like quite a few times, but I thought let's just use all of these brushes, or at least most of them on camera. I think the only one that I haven't had the opportunity to use, and I don't think I'm going to get around to today because we're working with cream products today, is this one. So I'm going to put this one away and we're going to address that in a different video, but all the other 4 brushes I've already used several times and I know how I feel about them actually. So this is going to be more of like a review of the like 4 out of the 5 brushes from the Keyaki 2 set. The Makeup by Mario stuff I have not tried, besides swatching it, and like on the first evening I just like quickly popped them on my cheeks to see if they're going to show up. Anyway, let's get to it. I'm going to just do my whole makeup with you. I'm going to grab the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion to start off doing my makeup. So Makeup by Mario, I thought maybe we can talk a little bit about his brand and how his brand and like how his fame started, because I know about Mario mainly because of Kim K, and I've been like, I don't know that skeptical is the correct word here, but you know, I'm always a little bit more cautious when like new brands like this from people that I don't particularly know come on the market. I like give myself like a sweet few years and I let other people try the brand extensively before I dip my toes into it. Shamefully, I must admit, when Pat McGrath released her brand, I had no idea who she was. So for the longest time I refused to pay the money and I didn't even bother checking who she was. Or maybe I did know who she was, but I was just like so outraged by the prices that I didn't even want to think about it. And I not the same experience because I've heard about Mario already for quite a few years, but again I had that same like, you have to prove yourself to me before I try your brand. And I feel like by now plenty of people have tried his brand. I feel like it's getting mostly positive reviews and I wanted to give it a try. And because I wanted to give a try to the brand, I also thought maybe I can go and read up a little bit on Mario's backstory. FYI, I'm going to do my little concoction here of the Vanish Liquid Foundation from Hourglass and my MAC Face and Body. These are both foundations that I don't really use very often and I'm just trying to get through them. And the two of them make a really good combo. So that's what we're doing for foundation. Now I know that this brush from the Keyaki 2 set, this is the Jumbo Base, theoretically can be used for foundation as well. That's not the purpose I bought it for the time being, so that's why I'm also not going to use it today. I'm just going to use my other favorite brush from the same series. So all of these brushes from Sonia G, by the way, that look like this, are from her Fusion series, and they are like a mix of natural and synthetic bristles, and they're meant to be used with cream products. And my absolute favorite brush for years and years and years to apply foundation has been the Classic Base. She also has a smaller version of this brush, which is called the Mini Base, which I've always enjoyed using a lot for concealer. But for concealer, I think we have got a new contender for a favorite brush, but I'm going to show you in a second. Let me first apply the foundation. So back to Mario. Obviously, based on his name, I had a suspicion that at the very least he comes from Eastern European background, but I never really bothered to check exactly where he comes from and or what his backstory is. And honestly, after I read his backstory, I sort of like am rooting for him, and I sort of hope that I'm going to love his brand and want to buy more products from it, because his story is really endearing, really inspiring, and it's one of those that, you know, makes me feel warm and fuzzy on the inside, and I just, you know, I root for him. I hope he makes it even more than he has already made it, but I think it's really admirable what he has achieved from the extremely modest background. So Mario's parents are from, let me say this right, they're Albanian immigrants from Montenegro, and he's, I think, the youngest out of 4 children, and they immigrated to the US when he was very, very young. So he's basically grown up in the US. And based on what I have read, he has sort of always had interest in makeup. His mom used to work in an office of, I want to say maybe Estee Lauder, and she used to get, I think, makeup from them, and he would like admire it, and every now and then take a piece of that makeup, stash it away in his secret little shoebox to admire and enjoy sort of secretly, because Eastern European, and based on his name, I'm assuming also he comes from a conservative religious family. A boy with an interest in makeup, especially at that time, because he's exactly my age, he's from 1983, back at that time would not have been looked good upon. So I think he had this like interest, but never really dared to express it. And then I think when he was maybe in his late teens or something, he had a job at Sephora as like one of those people that greets you to come inside the store, not really have anything to do with the actual makeup in there. But then one day, a lady asked him to help her choose a lipstick. We're going to go back to that in a second, because now I'm going to do my little concoction of concealer. And I think for today, I'm going to mix my First Aid Beauty Concealer in the shade Fair with my beloved Dior Skin Correct. And for that, we're going to use what is my new favorite concealer brush from the mini Keyaki set. This is the Jumbo Worker. What a nifty little brush to blend out your concealer. Let me show you the mini base from the original Keyaki set. So the original has like more of that like standard, like more rounded shape. It's very fluffy, very like dense, and it's a bit more stiff. It doesn't have as much give. Whereas this one is obviously much less dense, and it has quite a lot of like give. It's very soft, and I just absolutely love it for blending out concealer. I feel like it gets into the inner corners of my eyes much better than the mini base, because I have like very like deep set like inner corners, like they're very like sunken inside my skull. So sometimes they're very hard to get to with a rounded shape like the mini base brush. So I quite much more enjoy the shape, the lightness, and the way that the Jumbo Worker blends concealer. This is my absolute favorite new concealer brush. I'm sure you can use it for other purposes, like maybe spot concealing, maybe like liquid highlighter on your cheekbones. I think a lot of like Sonia's brushes are very multifunctional, but I adore this brush for concealer. It is just like kitty paws stroking your under eyes. So anyway, back to Mario's story. The lady asked him for a recommendation for a lip color, and then he helped her, and he had this like moment where he knew that this is what he wants to do. And obviously that was not met very well by his family. So from what I understood, at the tender age of 17, he grabbed his shoebox with makeup and he ran away from home. Now I don't know, I haven't dug into what his relationship with his family is at the moment. Now that he's a very successful makeup artist, I'm not really sure. I almost like didn't want to pry, because like it's a personal thing. Now I'm going to quickly set my face with the Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder from Charlotte Tilbury, the usual. So he ran away and he started doing, you know, makeup jobs. He, from what I understand, sort of like maybe learned on the job. I don't know if he's done a special education for it or taken some courses. That part I didn't really dig into all that much, but I know that he sort of like got a name for himself. And then on a fateful day, his manager or whoever like was helping him manage his jobs and like his career asked him if he would like to do makeup for this up-and-coming reality star called Kim Kardashian. And at first he wanted to say no, and he was very hesitant because people in his branch basically told him that if he wants to, and he was someone with aspirations to, you know, someday be doing makeup for the cover of Vogue and like those like high fashion magazines. I'm going to do my brows real quick with the Too Faced Laminating Brow Wax. And he was warned by people in the business that if he starts doing makeup for a reality show, for a reality TV personality, he will never make it to the cover of Vogue. So he almost said no. But then in the end he decided to fly over and meet her. And As you guys know, the rest is history. They clicked, and she kept booking him for jobs. Her fame and popularity kept rising because this comes from a time when Kim K wasn't what she is today. We all know the phenomenon that she is now. We all know that they've created this signature like contour and highlighting look. They developed like a very close friendship, and yeah, as you know, that kind of like shot his career into stardom as well, and he became quite famous. However, that doesn't mean that he instantly, you know, was a success, because I think somewhere in an article, I'm not sure whether that was on his website, I think somewhere in an article I read that even so he still had like a difficulty getting started, because at one point I want to say he was in LA and he wanted to organize like a in-person masterclass, and despite the fact that he was already gaining quite a bit of popularity, not many people showed up. But he didn't quit, he continued to pursue his dreams, and at the next masterclass, I think in New York, the tickets were sold out and it was a major success. And what he always wanted to do is have his own makeup brand. He wanted to make his own makeup. I think he has had this idea for many years. It just took quite a bit of time to get to the part where he can execute it. So, you know, especially someone, you know, coming from Eastern Europe of such like modest beginnings, to make it like this just warms my heart. And I'm rooting for him and his brand, so I really hope that I'm going to like these two products. So the way I went about this is I've been watching videos of people using his brand and what they're enjoying the most. I know that he has some very popular eyeshadow palettes, one with like a very sparkly toppery dye formula. I think that one is actually still for sale on the Sephora UK website, but yeah, for the time being, I was not interested in his eyeshadows. This product in particular, so this is the Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. This is basically a cream bronzer, and I've seen people on the internet, on YouTube, with like massive dents in this product, which means that a lot of people really love it. So I thought, you know, this must be a good product. And then when I was on the website, I thought I want to try something else from his complexion products. I was kind of hesitating between this and the stick blushes, but in the end I decided to go with this because it's kind of in the same formula. So this is the Soft Pop Plumping Veil Blush, and I got mine in the shade Barely Blushing, which looks like this. So from what I understand, and I already dipped my finger into these, as you know, these are a very unique type of formula because they are a cream product, but they're very emollient. They're very lightweight, they have a lighter kind of pigmentation, and they're quite dewy. So I will compare them to, I think, the only product to me that's somewhat similar in my collection, which is the Pat McGrath Labs Balms. And by comparison, the Pat McGrath Labs Balms are still not as like dewy and emollient as these are. So I'm curious what the longevity on these is, especially for like a full working day, and I'm just very curious about the tones and everything. Now let's first talk about the packaging. Both of these come in white packaging. For whatever reason, I think white packaging is just very classy. Now, I don't know whether it was a specific choice. This has this like sort of like mattified finish to it. I expected it to be shiny and like more smooth. Well, it's not that it's not smooth, but it has like more of like this mattified finish on it. It's not light per se, but it's also not like super luxurious feeling. I don't know, it's sitting somewhere between feeling luxurious and feeling not super luxurious. So I can't quite make up my mind how I don't dislike it, I don't hate it, I'm not disappointed in it. It's just, I think it's somewhat different than what my expectation was. But it's a very clean design, just with the By Mario logo over here, so I don't particularly mind the packaging. So this is the like I said, Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. Mine is in the shade Light Medium. And I want to just show you, when I put my finger into it, how emollient it immediately looks. Can you see that? This is like a very emollient texture. It's firm, but also really like creamy. And I am just super curious to what extent this sets on the face. I love the undertone of this. This is just perfect because it is not warm, it is not cool, it is just perfectly like a neutral undertone. And I absolutely love the look of this swatched on my hand. The blush is a neutral tone of blush. This is the shade what was this called again? This is Barely Blushing, and it has this absolutely the same texture and finish to it, like this very, very emollient formula, and again, a absolutely beautiful, like neutral rosy shade. And I will compare this later to Alluring Nude from Pat McGrath. Actually, why later? We can just use it, we can just do it already now. This is beautiful. This is like, I think Barely Blushing is spot on. Like, I can't describe this color better than Mario already has. These remind me the most of the formula of the balms from Pat McGrath Labs. This is the shade Alluring Nude, but can you see this is much firmer and far less emollient compared to the formula from Mario. And this here is Alluring Nude. Alluring Nude is actually somewhat deeper and more like peachy brownie in tone. This has a bit of a rosiness to it. Both are absolutely beautiful neutral blushes. And also, can you see how much less shine this has compared to the two Mario products? And people were already like remarking and complaining that the balms from Pat are very dewy. So these seem to have like amped up the dew a few notches, and I'm very curious how that will translate on the skin. Now, I suspect that with a brush like the one that I'm planning to use, and same goes for the balms from Pat McGrath Labs, and I've talked about this before, when you use a product like this, you can manipulate how dewy it looks on the skin based on how you're going to apply it. If you go in with your fingers and tap it on, or you use a sponge, maybe you're going to retain more of that dew. But when you use a very, very densely packed brush like this one, you're going to like soak up a lot of that extra dew and emollients into the bristles of the brush, and it's going to apply much less dewy on your skin. So let's give that a try. And with that, I want to talk about this brush, because this is the brush that started it all when it comes to the Keyaki 2 set from Sonia G. I picked up this set because I wanted this specific brush, and I wanted this specific brush because I originally wanted that super famous BK Beauty brush. BK Beauty makes a similar brush, I don't know the number. I know that they have a bigger version of it and a smaller version of it, and it was all the rage on YouTube. Everyone was using it for a variety of purposes: cream blush, cream bronzer, foundation, same as this one. Actually, it has that like beautiful like slant to it, and it's also very densely packed. And I went on the BK Beauty website, and I was actually quite shocked at how expensive their brushes are, their single brushes are, for being a synthetic brush. And I want to say the brush itself was something in the ballpark of 30 euros. Then I'll still have to pay for shipping. I want to say maybe they're not even shipping within Europe, so I would have to pay taxes and import on that brush. So that brush would cost me my left kidney. And let me tell you, I like my left kidney. I want to keep my left kidney because I think my right kidney would miss it. So I was like, you know, I would rather search for a different version, like an alternative. Also because I don't know anything about BK Beauty brushes. I don't know what their quality is. I don't know how they hold up over time. And I don't know that I want to invest 50 euros in one synthetic brush. This is a blend of synthetic and natural bristles, and I trust Sonia to make an excellent brush. So I was absolutely ecstatic when I found out that Sonia does make a similar brush. However, the brush from this collection as a single is sold out, and from what I understand, because a couple of you commented under my video where I talked about this brush originally, that it's been sold out for like a year, and with Sonia you never really know when these are coming back. So then I noticed that this brush is also present in the Keyaki set, and the only difference really is the size of the handle. Like the Keyaki set brushes have shorter handles. I already have the original Keyaki for many years. I love that. I know that I don't have a problem with brushes that have a somewhat shorter handle, so I knew that for me that's not an issue. So to wrap up this rambling and finally get to the point where we're going to apply the skin enhancer on my skin, that's the reason I bought the Keyaki 2 set, for this brush. Although I'm happy to have the other brushes too. Like I said, the Jumbo Worker, my new favorite concealer brush. Anyway, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of the skin enhancer on my Jumbo, what is this? Jumbo Base from Sonia G. And I'm going to start working it here on my, underneath my cheekbones and a bit on my cheeks. This is a beautiful color. It's applying very nicely, and I don't really have to like blend it or anything. It's already... Sorry, Hubs came to distract me. Anyway, we were applying the skin enhancer. This is applying beautifully on the skin. I absolutely love the tone. I think it is as neutral as it looks in the pan, and it is working out really well for me right now with, you know, my skin tone. And I love this brush. It is so soft and so dense and just absolutely amazing at applying cream products. So here we have the skin enhancer on one side of my face. Let me even out the situation by applying it also on the other side of my face. And again, because this brush is so very dense, I think it's really soaking up a lot of that like extra dew and emollients of the product. So the product is applying, like, it's not a matte finish on the skin certainly, but it is not more dewy than the balms from Pat McGrath Labs. Maybe I should have zoomed you in a little bit for this part, I'm sorry. Okay, once again, let's blend out a bit of this product here around the perimeter of my face. It's just a dream to blend out. It was very easy to blend and I really love the tone. It is very neutral in tone. Let's go into the blush. So this is the shade, like I said, Barely Blushing, and I'm going to apply this with the same brush. Going to pick up a little bit and apply that on them cheekies. This is maybe a tad too light for me right now, like a tad too light, not enough for me to not be able to wear it. But I feel like because it is a very light color, it creates like a tiny bit of grayness on my face right now. I think this will be a color that I can wear a little bit more when I'm a little bit less tan, which unfortunately will not be anytime soon. But you know, I knew what kind of color I was choosing. It seems like a very light color, so I knew that there's a possibility I will not really be able to wear this shade right now. But again, it is a very like nice neutral, like rosy nude basically. There's definitely dew and glow, and I don't really know that this is the type of product that will like self-set. So I don't expect this to be the most like long-lasting base product that I've ever tried. But with that said, I'm still very curious how these are going to fare throughout the day. But so far, I really enjoy the formula. I think it is just such a nice plumping, juicing up formula. It's more that if you're very oily and you by yourself get very dewy, this is definitely going to come off like real quick. So if you live in a humid climate, you're very oily, I don't think this is going to be for you. If you have very dry skin and you live in a somewhat more moderate climate, and you like a little bit of like plumping and juicing on your cheekies, I think you're going to enjoy these. Alright, we spent more than enough time talking about the Mario product, so let's quickly move to the eye look. For the eye look today, I want to quickly revisit the Coral Flame Quint from Dior. So this is one of their springtime releases, the Pastel Glow and the Coral Flame Quints, both in the Baked Gelée formula. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know what's happening, but I'm not falling in love with this quint. Pastel Glow, I really love. I enjoy the formula, I enjoy the colors, the combination of the colors. Let me show you Pastel Glow, because maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. So this is the other quint that they released in this collection, and I really love this. However, there's something about I don't know if it's the formula or the shades in here. I like the shades, but for whatever reason, something is not quite clicking here. So I want to revisit this today. I want to do a look with it and just see how I feel about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the crease brush from the Keyaki 2 set from Sonia G. One of the reasons that I thought this set might be really useful for me is because I didn't actually have a crease brush from Sonia G. I have a lot of her other types of brushes, but I never got anything within her like blending crease type of brushes, because they always seemed too small for what I like and not fluffy enough. Like, her brushes can be quite dense and like stiff, and I want something very like fluffy that it really diffuses color. So I didn't really have a like classic type of blending brush from her, so I was very happy when I got this one. Now I'm going to use this brush for both packing and blending out right now, because I want to go into a combination of these two shades. I'm kind of going to like mix them together to apply as my lid shade. And I can already tell you that I quite like mixing these two shades together, because when I use this shade on its own, because this formula is so sheer, a lot of these colors don't really like show up on my skin so much, and I was getting a little bit frustrated with it. And it's also quite powdery for a baked formula. I would have preferred it maybe if it's a little bit less powdery, but I think that's like a personal thing. For example, I really like the Guerlain formula because it is so much less powdery. It's so much more like dense and firm, but I think that's one of the reasons people dislike that formula, so it's really a matter of personal preference. If you prefer like more powdery shadows that you don't have to like work too hard to get out of the pan, then this formula would be better for you. But so far I'm enjoying the color that these two are creating together. It's like a beautiful, basically rosy brown, and I am loving the tone. It's not too dark, it's somewhat like of a medium depth, and it looks very flattering on the lid. And this brush, as expected, is very soft and just diffuses color so beautifully. And I really enjoy having a crease brush from Sonia G, like a classic blending brush. Now I want to bring in just a little bit of extra sparkle to this look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this same blending brush from Sonia G, the crease brush, and I'm going to apply a little bit of this shade here, this like neutral orangey shade, and I'm going to pack that on the brush, but I'm not going to apply it dry. I'm going to spritz the brush with a little bit of Fix Plus just to see if I can intensify the sheen a little bit, so that this shade doesn't like fly all over the place and never actually stick to my lids, because that's really one of the issues that I have with this formula. It's sheer and it's also very powdery, so it doesn't really stick to your lids very well, and then I can barely see anything of it on my lids. So let's see if spritzing with a bit of Fix Plus is going to rectify the situation. Okay, I can see a little bit more sparkle now. I mean, it's not super intense, and maybe I'm not using the right brush for this. So let me switch the brush up, because I don't want to be overly critical of the formula if I'm using the wrong brush. I'm going to take this same shade now, but on a classic shader brush. I'm going to repeat the same. I'm going to spritz my brush, and then I'm going to paint that on. Okay, I feel like maybe that's working a little bit better, which is to be expected, because a crease brush really isn't meant to apply powdery sparkly eyeshadows. So this is still quite subtle, but there's a little bit of more sparkle than if you apply this shade dry on your lids, when it just like sort of like flies away, and it adds like a very, very subtle amount of glimmer. And if you're someone who likes to be very subtle, then maybe you're going to really like this formula, but subtle is not my game, or at least not that subtle, so I prefer to be able to see the sparkle a bit better. I also really like how when you layer this shade, it just kind of like pops and gives a little bit of like a copper sheen to the lids. I have no idea whether that's coming across on camera, but in person it looks actually quite ethereal and nice. I quite like it. Okay, let me switch up brush again, because now I want to show you this brush. So this is the most funky brush in the Keyaki set. It is called the detail brush, and it has a very interesting shape to it, but it's also very stiff. I don't know what to compare it to. Okay, let me grab a different brush from Sonia, the soft definer, that's somewhat of a similar-ish shape. This is just a little bit bigger, but see how like soft this is. And I'm sorry, you can see powder flying off, because apparently I used this brush and I didn't clean it off too well. This one, on the other hand, has very little give. It's like very densely packed and very stiff, and I'm not still entirely sure what this is best to use with, but I've been using it to apply inner corner highlights. So I'm going to grab this like corally shade here with the golden duochrome, and I'm going to see how that applies in the inner corners. You know what? I'm actually going to mix again the coral with the yellow here to create my own custom inner corner highlight. I'm just trying to understand here how I feel about this squint and if I want to keep it. Because in a, you know, controversial twist of events, I've decided to sell my YSL quad. My one YSL quad, the shade Caspa Spices. I've just come to the realization that I don't quite enjoy that formula. The matte eyeshadows, while they're lovely, they just are too powdery for me. I prefer stiffer formulas like the Guerlain, like the Lancome, like the Prada. I much rather prefer those formulas. So hopefully I'm able to sell that quad to somebody else to enjoy, and I would rather just get another Prada quad or something. instead of these YSL quads, because they have released these new colors, and I was very tempted by the shade with the tangerine color, but then I thought maybe you should revisit Caspa Spices just to see what was the reason that you were not in love with this formula, and now I remember why. So I'm going to lay off of the YSL quads, the new ones. What I'm also going to do is take ground coffee from Lisa Eldridge, and I'm going to try to create like a tiny wing situation just to intensify the lashes here. So I'm going to apply a little bit of this on my lashes, and then I'm going to grab a... Maybe I should have thought about this before I applied it and it's starting to set. Anyway, I'm going to take like a wing liner brush, and I'm actually going to try to create like a little winged out shape with the pencil, because the pencil is quite creamy, and before it sets it gives you the opportunity to move it around a bit, and I've really been enjoying doing these like eeny mini wings with it. Yesterday I wore like a full-on wing with my Inglot gel liner, which I do like every half a year or so, just so the muscle memory isn't lost. But in the meantime I have been enjoying this sort of like a baby subtle wing using ground coffee. That's actually one of the reasons I wanted to have ground coffee from Lisa Eldridge, because I wanted to have a really dark brown, not necessarily a black. Also, in my enthusiasm, I realized I completely forgot to apply highlighter. Not that I really need it, because this formula is quite glowy on its own, and I don't think there's a necessity to apply highlighter, but I want to be extra. So I think the type of texture and formula that's going to fit really well with the Mario products is my beloved Victoria Beckham highlighter in the shade Pearl. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of that on my mini Real Techniques sponge, and I am going to work that here on the highest points of my cheek, just so I'm extra dewy. I wanted to wear a red lipstick, but I also wanted to keep it to like a more chill red, so I'm wearing a combination of the Lisa Eldridge lip liner and lipstick in the shade Enchantment. This is a beautiful, like very muted red, which I like to wear on days when I want to wear a red lipstick, but I also don't want to wear like a bright statement red lip. And I think Enchantment is absolutely perfect for that. I actually really like how the look turned out. There's not a product here that I didn't have a good experience with. I'm very much enjoying my Keyaki 2 set. I've already used these brushes for a couple of days. I absolutely love them. The brush in particular for which I bought this set, so the Jumbo Base, is amazing. I love this brush, and I think this set is a really good investment, especially if you're someone who travels a lot and wants to have multifunctional brushes with them. But I expected really no less from Sonia G. When it comes to the two Mario products, so the Soft Sculpting Serum Bronzer and the blush, I really like both of them. I like the finish on the skin. I love the tone of both of these. Like I said, I think the blush is maybe slightly more suited to my skin when I'm going to be a little bit lighter in tone. The bronzer, on the other hand, I absolutely love because it is such a beautiful neutral tone. Now, something that I will come and update you in the comments, not in the comments, in my description box when I'm back from work, is how these products fared over the course of the day and whether anything was still there at the end of the day, because they're so creamy and emollient, and I don't really think that they fully set. So like they still feel a little bit tacky, so I don't rely on them being very long lasting on the skin. But let's not make rash judgment here. Let's just give the products a chance and see how they're going to fare on my normal to slightly oily skin. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this whole adventure. Are there any products in here that you have a specific opinion on? What do you think about specifically the bronzer and the blush from Mario? I'm super curious because, like I said, this is the first time that I'm trying his brand, so it is a very exciting time. I'm quite happy to say that I quite enjoyed the look that I created with Coral Flame. I think we just like had to get to know each other a little bit better, and now that we do, I think she's going to stay in the family. She's not going to be decluttered, unlike her sister from YSL, who is already up for sale. And I hope that someone is going to purchase it and, you know, rid me of the guilt of not using this quad ever. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this rambling. Let me know what you thought about the look and everything we chatted about. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!